You walked away, you went silent, and now you're sitting there thinking to yourself, why aren't they crawling back yet? Did silence fail me? Did I lose them forever? My friends, let me be brutally honest with you right now. Silence is not a magic trick that works overnight. It's not a text message you send and wait for the reply. It's not a switch you flip. Silence is a storm, and storms don't arrive in seconds. They build, they brew, they gather force until the sky cracks open and the world shakes. That is what silence does inside someone's mind. But because you can't see it yet, because they haven't called, your own mind starts lying to you. You start thinking, maybe they don't care, maybe they're unaffected. Maybe I was nothing to them. That is not truth. That is doubt speaking. And Stoicism teaches us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Folks, you need to understand the truth of human psychology. When you go silent, the effect is invisible at first. You can't see the seed growing under the soil. You don't hear the roots digging down into the ground. But just because you can't see growth doesn't mean nothing is happening. Silence works in the same way. It digs slowly, quietly, into their thoughts until one day it blooms into obsession. But here's the problem. Most people quit too soon. They walk away but keep peeking, keep liking posts, keep watching stories, keep sending crumbs of attention. That is not silence. That is noise. That is you still feeding their ego. And if you feed their ego, why should they miss you? Why should they fear losing you if they can still sense your presence? My friends, true silence is absence. It is disappearance. It is the kind of quiet that makes them wonder if they ever had you at all. Think about it like this. Imagine you hear your favorite song every day. You love it, but you take it for granted. Now imagine one day it's gone. The radio doesn't play it. Your phone doesn't have it. Weeks go by, and now all you want is to hear it one more time. That is the power of silence. It is the sudden absence that makes the mind crave what it once ignored. But here is where people break. They expect the missing to start instantly. They expect the regret to hit tomorrow. No, my friends, the mind does not bend that easily. First, it resists. First, it tries to fill the gap with noise, with other people, with distractions. But slowly, at night, in the quiet, the missing begins. Slowly, when laughter with others feels empty, the memory of you becomes heavy. Slowly, when they lie in bed, they ask themselves, why haven't they come back? Why aren't they chasing? And that is when the silence starts doing its work. Don't believe the lie that because they look happy now, your silence failed. Social media smiles are masks, rebounds are bandages, loud lives are distractions. None of it erases the ghost you left behind. Silence doesn't fail, folks. Impatience fails. Weak silence fails. But the silence of discipline, the silence of true control, that silence is unshakable. That silence haunts, and it will pull them back to you in ways words never could. My friends, lean in for a moment, because I need you to hear me with your whole chest. Do not let doubt rob you of your strength. Doubt is the enemy whispering that you're losing when in reality you're winning the slowest, most patient war of your life. You are not being ignored. You are being carved into their mind with every silent day that passes. You are not losing ground. You are planting seeds in the cracks of their thoughts. And when those seeds break open, it will not be gentle. It will be a storm, sudden and undeniable. Picture it. They're laughing with someone else, pretending they've moved on, and then, out of nowhere, it hits them. A memory, a scent, a moment, and silence crashes down on them like thunder. That's when regret floods in. That's when craving begins. That's when your absence becomes unbearable. This is not fantasy. This is psychology. This is human nature. This is the mind collapsing under the weight of silence. So I'm asking you, no, I'm challenging you. Prove to yourself right now that you are stronger than your fear. Write it in the comments like you're etching it into stone. Silence is power, not as empty words, but as your oath. Write it to remind yourself when doubt creeps in at 2 a.m. Write it so the next time you feel weak, you see your own words staring back at you, holding you accountable. And if you're serious about taking your power back, if you're done playing small, then press that like button, hit subscribe, and stay with me. Because this isn't just about them missing you, it's about you remembering who you are. Say it, feel it, own it. This is your time. This is your control. This is your victory. Now go type it below, my friends. Silence is power. Number 1, the illusion of no effect. At the start, silence feels like nothing is happening. That's the hardest part, my friends. You pull back, you stop texting, you stop chasing, you stop being the one who fills every gap in the conversation. And what do you see? Nothing. No reaction, no chase, no regret. Instead, they look like they're thriving. They're posting more, smiling louder, surrounding themselves with new people. Maybe they even flaunt someone else on their arm. And you sit there asking yourself, did my silence fail? Did I miscalculate? Did they move on so easily? This is the illusion of no effect. Stoicism reminds us, appearances are often deceptive. The truth is rarely at the surface. What you're witnessing is not freedom, it's performance. People are masters of masks, especially in the aftermath of rejection and separation. Carl Jung said, "The persona is the mask that meets the world." What they show the world, and what they show you through their public life, is not what they are living in private. That mask is carefully chosen, carefully painted. It's a shield against the storm that is slowly building in their subconscious. Silence has already begun to do its work, but because it is invisible, you think nothing is happening. That is the trap most people fall into. Imagine an ice cube melting in a glass. You stare at it for 5 seconds, and it looks unchanged. You keep watching, and still nothing obvious is happening. But step away, give it time, and when you return, the cube is half gone. This is how silence works. The change is happening in real time, but it is so slow, so subtle, you cannot measure it day by day. And if you're impatient, if you expect instant fireworks, you'll trick yourself into thinking silence isn't working. But friends, the human mind is not instant coffee. It brews like tea steeping in water, quietly, patiently, and then, all at once, the flavor is undeniable. You need to understand why they look unaffected. It is not because your absence means nothing. It is because your absence means too much. Human beings fear weakness. They fear admitting that someone else has power over them. So instead of crumbling, they perform strength. They put on the loudest smile. They take the brightest photos. They fill their calendar with distractions. Psychology proves it. People perform the hardest when they're trying to hide pain. Think about athletes who play through injury. They push harder, louder, because they're covering up the damage. Your ex, your rejection, your betrayer, whatever role they played, they are doing the same thing. They perform their moving on because inside your silence is already shaking them. But I know the questions that come into your mind because they haunt everyone at this stage. If they miss me, why don't they call? If they regret, why don't they apologize? If they care, why do they look so happy? Let me answer you calmly, because the ego hates defeat. Pride will let someone suffer quietly in their own mind before it lets them admit they made a mistake. Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." That's exactly what's happening. They'll throw themselves into the arms of another person, even if that person means nothing, simply to avoid facing the silence you placed around them. They'll laugh louder, post more often, and act busier than they really are, all to keep from admitting that the quiet you left behind is echoing in their chest. Think about it like this. When a house is burning from the inside, the flames don't always show on the outside right away. At first glance, it looks fine, maybe even stronger than before, but inside, the fire is spreading, consuming room after room. That's what silence does. The structure looks stable, but inside their mind, silence is spreading. It starts in the corners. Questions, tiny regrets, little what-ifs, and it keeps growing until it can't be hidden anymore. But you, standing on the outside, can't see it yet, and so you assume the house is untouched. That is the illusion. The illusion of no effect is where most people fail. They look at the mask, they look at the performance, and they panic. They break the silence too early. They reach out, they check in, they remind the other person, "I'm still here." And in doing so, they throw away all the progress that silence was building behind the scenes. Don't make that mistake, my friends. The illusion is designed to test your strength. The universe is asking you, can you stay the course when you see nothing? Can you trust the process when the soil looks empty? Remember, the seed breaks the ground long after it has begun to grow. Patience is not weakness, it is control. And here's the key truth. Their moving on is not movement forward. It's stalling, it's delay, it's denial. The mind resists the weight of silence until it can't resist anymore. Think of it like holding a beach ball under water. At first, it feels easy to press it down, to keep it hidden. But eventually, the pressure builds, the arms weaken, and the ball explodes to the surface. That explosion is their regret, their craving, their realization that they cannot escape you. The illusion of no effect is simply the stage before the breakthrough. So I ask you, my friends, are you willing to endure this stage without folding? Can you sit with the discomfort of not seeing results, trusting that the silence is still working inside them? Because that is what separates the strong from the desperate. Stoicism teaches us to master what we can control and to release what we cannot. You can control your silence. You can control your discipline. You cannot control their ego, their mask, their games. But the silence you keep, unyielding, unbreakable, will eventually burn through every mask they wear. This is not weakness, this is not failure, this is patience, and patience is the highest form of strength. Do not be fooled by the illusion of no effect. It is working, they are feeling it. And one day, when the mask slips, when the performance fades, you will see the truth written in their eyes. They will regret, they will crave, they will return. Write it in the comments, my friends, so you don't forget it when doubt comes creeping. Patience is power. Etch it there like your personal reminder, your anchor. And if you believe in your strength, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because this is only the beginning. This is your training ground. This is your proof that you are stronger than appearances. Say it out loud. Write it down. Patience is power. Number 2, the biggest mistake you're making. The biggest mistake, my friends, is thinking you've gone silent when in reality you're still feeding them. You told yourself you walked away, but you didn't cut the cord. You muted your voice, yes, but you're still present in the background. You're still watching their stories, still scrolling through their pictures, still leaving a like here and there, still reacting in subtle ways. You might even say to yourself, but I didn't message them. I didn't call. I didn't beg. And yet, every tiny signal you give, the silent view, the quiet like, the little trace of attention, is a breadcrumb. And breadcrumbs, no matter how small, still feed the ego. Silence is not half measures. Silence is not you ghosting in one way, but haunting in another. True silence is absence. It is no reaction. It is no proof you're still watching. When they feel your eyes on them, when they sense your presence, even in the smallest way, they feel safe. They feel validated. They think, I still have them. I can still get their attention when I want. And when they believe that, there is no reason for panic. Why would they chase if they know you're still there, quietly orbiting their world? Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Think about that, my friends. As long as you unconsciously keep feeding them these crumbs, you'll convince yourself it's fate that they're not coming back. But it's not fate. It's your mistake. You haven't created silence, you've created background noise, and noise never makes anyone afraid of losing the music. Imagine a stage, they're the performer, and you were once the audience clapping the loudest. You think you've left the theatre, but really you're still peeking through the curtains, giving little claps from the shadows. That's not absence, that's not withdrawal. That's still a performance they benefit from. Panic only starts when the performer looks up and realizes the seats are empty, the lights are off, the stage is theirs alone, and nobody's watching anymore. That's when silence starts to hit. That's when the mask begins to crack. But here's why this is so difficult. The human mind craves connection. You still feel tied to them. You want to know what they're doing, if they're happy, if they're missing you. That curiosity makes you peek. That longing makes you leave small crumbs. You tell yourself, it's harmless, just one view, just one like. But those small actions keep you chained. They keep you reacting, and worse, they keep the other person comfortable. They don't have to miss you when they still sense you in the crowd. Ask yourself this, honestly. If they can post a story and know you'll see it, are you truly gone? If they can drop a picture and know you'll double tap it, do they ever really feel your absence? Or do they smile to themselves, thinking, I still have them? They'll never leave. That thought, my friends, kills the power of silence before it even begins. Silence is not meant to be soft. Silence is meant to be sharp, absolute, and undeniable. It's meant to shock their system, to pull the ground from under their feet, to make them question, where did they go? Why aren't they watching me anymore? That is when panic sets in. That is when the mask begins to slip. That is when they realize the applause has stopped. The Stoics believed in discipline above all else. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If you cannot master the urge to check, to peek, to feed, then you are not free. You are still chained to them, and they can feel it. But when you discipline yourself into true silence, when you vanish completely from their world, you gain mastery. And with mastery comes power. So let me leave you with this. Crumbs are not silence. Half silence is not silence. Silence means vanishing in such a way that they begin to question their own worth, their own appeal, their own hold over you. That is the silence that cracks pride, the silence that plants regret, the silence that makes them chase. Write it in the comments, my friends, and make it your vow. No crumbs, only silence. Repeat it, live it. Let it be your strength when your fingers itch to peek. And if you're ready to practice this discipline, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Say it again with me now. No crumbs, only silence. Number 3. Silence hurts more than words ever could. Silence hurts more than words ever could, my friends, and here's why. Words have edges. You can hold them, dissect them, argue with them, even dismiss them. Words bring closure. If someone says, "I don't love you anymore," the mind can grab onto that and try to rationalize it. It stings, yes, but it also gives shape to the pain. Silence, on the other hand, is shapeless. It has no ending point, no conclusion, no safe place for the mind to rest. It lingers like smoke in a room you can't escape. It bites in moments when you least expect it, and over time it doesn't fade, it grows heavier. Think about it like this. When a song gets stuck in your head, you can't stop humming it. It loops endlessly, not because you love it, but because it's unfinished in your mind. Silence works the same way. It's the song they can't complete, the sentence they can't finish, the book with the last page torn out. They replay your absence over and over, trying to make sense of it, but because you left no words, no explanations, their mind has no choice but to obsess. That obsession is not instant. It builds slowly, quietly, until it consumes them. At first, they might shrug it off. They tell themselves, "I'm fine without you. I don't care. I've moved on." But silence sits in the background like a shadow that refuses to leave the room. They scroll through their phone late at night, and there you are, not in texts, not in calls, but in absence. And absence can be louder than presence. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Your silence becomes the barrier they cannot move past, the wall they crash into every time they try to convince themselves they're free. Here's the truth. Humans are wired to crave resolution. We don't like unfinished business. It irritates the brain. Carl Jung wrote, "What you resist persists." They resist thinking about you, but because silence left them no closure, the thought of you persists. It creeps in when they're driving, when they're eating, when they're lying beside someone new. The more they try to push it away, the more powerful it becomes. Words might have given them permission to bury you. Silence denies them that burial. Silence keeps you alive in their mind. Have you ever noticed that the people who once hurt you the most are the ones you sometimes think about at random moments, years later? Why? Because you never got the answers. Because their silence became a scar, and scars itch even long after the wound has healed. That is the power of silence. It turns you into something unforgettable. You become the question they can't answer, the ghost they can't banish. And ghosts, my friends, always return to haunt. But here's where you must stay strong, because silence only works if you hold it. The temptation is to break it with words, just one message, just one explanation, just one goodbye. But don't fool yourself. Words will ease their pain. Words will let them put you in a box, file you away, tell themselves, "Now I understand. Now I can move on." Don't give them that gift. Let the silence do the cutting. Let the silence be the open loop that drives them into sleepless nights. You want proof it works. Look at your own life. Who do you still think about? The one who told you everything, or the one who vanished without a trace? The mind forgets explanations, but it cannot forget absence. Absence becomes an ache, a puzzle, a weight. And one day, that weight will break them down. They will regret, they will crave, they will circle back, not because you begged, not because you reminded them, but because silence made them restless in their own skin. So when you feel weak, when you wonder if silence is cruel, remember this: Silence is the greatest teacher. It doesn't scream, it doesn't plead, it doesn't explain. It just exists, heavy and undeniable. And in that weight, they will feel your power. Write this in the comments right now, my friends, so you never forget it. Silence is the sharpest sword. Say it. Own it, because words might cut once, but silence cuts every day. And if you're ready to wield that sword with control, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. This is your strength. This is your discipline. This is your edge. Say it again. Silence is the sharpest sword. Number 4. Why they look happy without you and why it's fake. At first glance, it looks like they're happier without you. You go silent, you disappear, and suddenly they start posting more, laughing louder, showing up in places they never bothered to go before. They might even flaunt someone new on their arm, as if to scream, "Look at me, I've moved on." And if you're not careful, that performance can tear at your spirit. You scroll through your feed, you see their staged smiles, their curated adventures, and your mind whispers, maybe they really don't care. Maybe they're better without me. Maybe silence doesn't work. But let me tell you the truth, my friends. That happiness is a mask. It's a stage play written to convince themselves and everyone else that they feel nothing. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." What they're doing in those moments is avoiding their unconscious pain. They're not healed. They're distracted. They don't want to face the emptiness your absence created, so they try to fill it with noise. And what better noise than fake joy? New people, new scenes, new pictures. But what they won't admit, what they can't say out loud, is that every smile they force is a push against the silence you left behind. Think about the rebound effect. Psychology has proven it again and again. When someone jumps into something new right after losing someone, it's not healing, it's numbing. It's like slapping a bandage over a wound that hasn't even been cleaned. The wound is still bleeding underneath, still raw, still hurting, but the bandage hides it for a while. That's exactly what's happening when they flaunt their new happiness. The bandage looks neat, but the pain is alive underneath. And silence makes that pain stronger over time. Picture it like a house built on sand. At first, it looks fine, stable, strong, maybe even beautiful, but the foundation is weak. Over time, the structure cannot hold, and it collapses under its own weight. Their new happiness is that house. It looks solid from the outside, but you know the truth. Silence has eroded the foundation. They can laugh, they can post, they can kiss someone else in a photo, but at night, when it's quiet, when the noise fades, that's when your absence rushes back in. The bed feels colder, the conversations emptier, the laughs shorter. Silence never leaves them alone. Ask yourself this: if they were truly happy, why do they need to show it off so loudly? Why do they post more than ever before? Why do they exaggerate their joy? Because real happiness is quiet. It doesn't beg for attention. Only fake happiness screams. Only fake happiness needs an audience. That's why their display is not proof of healing, but proof of pain. The louder they act, the more they're trying to drown out the voice in their head whispering, "You lost them. You pushed away someone who cared." And here's the part that should strengthen you. Those new connections, those new highs, they fade fast. A rebound can't compete with real emotional bonds. A stand-in can't erase years of memories. And the more silence grows, the heavier those buried feelings become. They'll try to laugh them away, but laughter won't kill it. They'll try to replace you, but replacements can't stop comparisons. They'll try to pretend they're unaffected, but pretense always cracks under time. The Stoics taught us not to be fooled by appearances. Epictetus said, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself." What you're seeing is not joy, it's the revelation of their weakness. They are scrambling to hide what they feel, and your silence is forcing them to confront themselves. So when you see them smiling with someone new, don't let doubt creep in. Don't fall for the mask. That joy is temporary, and it is fragile. Silence is stronger. Silence is permanent. Silence will break through the act and expose the truth. And when that moment comes, their fake happiness will dissolve and regret will take its place. Write this in the comments right now, my friends, to remind yourself when doubt comes, fake joy fades. Say it, own it, and let it anchor you when you see their stage smiles. And if you're ready to see through illusions, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. This is not the end of the story. This is the turning point. Say it again with me. Fake joy fades. Number 5. The turning point. Regret sneaks in. Weeks pass, maybe even months, and here's where the silence begins to shift its weight. At first, they thought they were fine without you. At first, they laughed it off, filled their calendar, pretended life was brighter without you. But then, in the quiet moments they can't escape, lying in bed at night, walking alone, driving with the music off, your absence starts speaking louder than their distractions. Silence has a way of echoing in the mind, and those echoes carry memories. They begin replaying conversations, hearing your voice in their head, remembering moments they once dismissed. And suddenly, what once felt ordinary now feels priceless. This is the turning point, my friends. Regret doesn't hit like a thunderclap. It creeps in like a slow fog. It starts with small questions. What are they doing now? Who are they with? Are they happier without me? Those questions turn into images. They picture you laughing with someone new, moving forward, living fully without them. And the more they imagine it, the more their chest tightens. Silence leaves them no reassurance, no comfort, no proof that they're still in control. And human beings hate uncertainty more than anything. The brain is wired to seek answers, to close loops, to resolve tension. But your silence is a loop they can't close, a door they can't open, a question they can't answer. That's where regret is born. Carl Jung once said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." Your silence is forcing them down into their own shadows. They must sit with the reality that they pushed away someone who cared, and now they can't undo it. They begin to realize they traded something real for something temporary. They begin to recognize that not everyone is replaceable, and the more time passes, the sharper that recognition becomes. Picture it like water dripping on stone. At first, 1 drop means nothing. 10 drops mean nothing, but over weeks and months, those drops carve deep grooves into the rock. Your silence is that steady drip. Every day without your presence, without your voice, without your reassurance, the regret carves deeper into their mind. And what's worse for them is that they cannot stop it. They can distract themselves for an hour, a day, maybe even a week. But silence waits patiently for them in the dark. And when the noise of the world fades, there you are, in absence, in memory, in thought. And here's the irony. They once thought you were the one who needed them. They thought you'd be the one who broke first. But now, as the silence stretches, it dawns on them, you're not coming back. That realization is a knife to the ego. It twists slowly, making them wonder, did I make a mistake? Did I misjudge their worth? What if they've already replaced me? What if they don't even think of me anymore? That cycle of thought is what keeps them awake at night, staring at their phone, debating whether to reach out, whether to break the silence themselves. This is why patience is so important, my friends, because regret doesn't arrive on your schedule, it arrives on theirs. And when it arrives, it doesn't knock softly, it barges in, it takes over, it forces them to look at what they lost. And that's when they start to crave you again. Not because you begged, not because you reminded them, but because silence made you larger in their mind than you ever were in their presence. So when you feel like nothing is happening, remember this: silence is building regret inside them, drop by drop, day by day. It's working even when you can't see it. And one day, when the fog of denial clears, they will realize the truth. They let go of something rare, and now they can't get it back so easily. Write it in the comments right now, my friends, so you don't forget. Regret always comes. Let those words be your shield when doubt creeps in. And if you're ready to hold steady until the regret sets in, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because you are not forgotten. You are unforgettable. Say it again with me. Regret always comes. Number 6. The magical shift that pulls them back. Here's where the story takes a turn, my friends, because silence on its own is powerful, but silence combined with transformation. That is the magic that pulls them back, whether they want it or not. It's one thing to vanish. It's another thing to vanish and then reappear in their world, like a completely upgraded version of yourself. That's when silence stops being absence and becomes presence. Not a presence they can touch, but a presence they cannot escape. Think about it this way: a caterpillar disappears into a cocoon, silent, unseen, forgotten. The world assumes it has died, or at least become nothing more than a shadow of what it was. But when it emerges, it's unrecognizable. It's something greater, brighter, untouchable. That's you. While they're spiraling in regret, replaying old conversations, stuck in the loop of your absence, you're building, you're glowing, you're becoming someone they can't compare anyone else to. That transformation is unbearable for them because it magnifies their mistake. Silence becomes a weapon when you evolve inside it. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That's the secret right here. Silence is not just for them, it's for you. It gives you space to grow without their noise in your ear, without their judgment in your way, without their games in your heart. And when you take that silence and use it to step into new strength, new energy, new life, you force them into a comparison they cannot win. Even if they're with someone else, even if they've tried to replace you, that new person now has to stand in the shadow of the version of you they abandoned. And the mind doesn't forgive that easily. Imagine them scrolling late at night, stumbling across a picture of you glowing in your own lane. Maybe you're laughing with friends, maybe you're healthier, sharper, calmer, or simply at peace. That sight will hit harder than any message you could ever send. Because in that moment, silence plus transformation tells a story. You didn't break, you built. You didn't chase, you chose yourself. And that is the most magnetic thing a human being can witness. This is why silence hurts more than words. Words could have told them you're okay. Silence forces them to see it, to imagine it, to fear it. And when they start imagining you with someone else, imagining you moving forward, imagining you being untouchable, it becomes torture. Their mind keeps comparing, and the comparison is always in your favor. That's the magic. Silence by itself creates mystery. Mystery plus self-growth creates obsession. And here's the deeper truth. People don't miss who you were. They miss the image of who you are becoming. When they realize you are no longer standing still, when they realize they can no longer predict you, when they realize you are glowing brighter without them, that's when panic turns into action. They will want to return, not because you begged, but because silence showed them what words never could, that you are bigger, stronger, and beyond their reach. The Stoics always taught that the greatest revenge is not anger, but transformation. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. You don't win by chasing, you win by evolving. You win by making their replacement feel like cardboard compared to the diamond you've become. That is the magical shift. That is the unbearable weight that pulls them back." So let me challenge you, my friends. Don't just go silent. Use the silence. Grow inside it. Glow inside it. Become so magnetic that even in their happiest moments with someone else, your image flashes in their mind. And when that happens, you've already won. Write it in the comments right now. Silence plus growth. Let that be your mantra. Let that remind you that silence is not emptiness, it is transformation. And if you're ready to step into that transformation, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because you are not just surviving this silence, you are turning it into power. Say it with me one more time, my friends. Silence plus growth. Number 7, obsession kicks in. This is the stage they never saw coming, my friends. At first, they thought silence meant freedom. They thought pushing you away meant they could live lighter, laugh harder, and move on without consequence. But time has a way of flipping the script. As the weeks stretch into months, something begins to stir inside them. That silence you held so firmly, that discipline you refused to break, transforms you into something they can't figure out, an unsolved riddle. And the human mind cannot rest when a riddle remains unanswered. At night, when the world quiets down and distractions fade, that's when your ghost arrives. They think of you when they don't want to. They dream about you when they least expect it. Your name flashes across their thoughts in the middle of a conversation, and it unsettles them. They start checking, just casually at first. A quick glance at your social media, a scroll through old photos, a reread of past conversations. But here's the thing. Checking once never satisfies. It only fuels the fire. And before they know it, they're stalking, they're searching, they're chasing shadows of you because silence has turned into obsession. Carl Jung spoke about what he called the shadow, the hidden part of ourselves we try to deny. That's what's happening to them now. You've become the shadow they can't repress. The more they try to ignore you, the stronger your absence becomes. The brain does something fascinating in this stage. It forms what psychologists call phantom attachments. Just like someone who loses a limb still feels it itching, still feels it present, they start to feel you in the spaces you no longer occupy. They miss what they no longer have access to, and that longing twists itself into obsession. And then comes the question, the one that pierces through their pride. What if I made a mistake? That question is dangerous because once it enters the mind, it doesn't leave. It multiplies. It repeats itself. What if they were the one? What if I ruined something rare? What if they don't want me anymore? That's when they realize the cost of their choices. That's when silence reveals its sharpest edge. Imagine this. They're out with someone new, laughing, holding hands, trying to convince themselves this is enough. But in the middle of it, a thought of you crashes in. They compare the way that person laughs to the way you did. They compare the way that person listens to the way you used to. And the comparison is never fair, because silence magnifies you. Absence doesn't shrink your presence, it enlarges it. They start seeing you in places you don't exist, and it drives them restless. The Stoics knew this power well. Seneca once said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." But delay is also the greatest fuel for obsession. Your silence is that delay. Every day they go without you, their thoughts stretch tighter, like a bow pulled back further and further. And one day, that bowstring snaps. That's when obsession turns into action. That's when they reach for the phone, type your name, hover over the send button. They resist, they hesitate, but the silence doesn't let go. It gnaws, it claws, it drags them back toward you. And here's the truth that should empower you. Obsession is not something you chase. It's something you create by doing nothing, by staying still, by holding your silence. You don't have to send a word. You don't have to remind them of who you are. The silence is already doing it for you, louder than anything you could say. So when doubt creeps in and you wonder if they've forgotten you, remember this stage. Remember that silence doesn't make you invisible, it makes you unforgettable. Remember that obsession doesn't come from presence, it comes from absence. And know this, the more you resist breaking your silence, the more they will break under it. Write it in the comments right now, my friends, so you anchor this truth in your heart. Silence creates obsession. Let it be your mantra, your reminder, your shield. And if you're ready to stay disciplined until that obsession grows into action, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. Because this is where the tables turn. Say it with me one more time. Silence creates obsession. Number 8. They always come back, but it's on your terms. And here we are, my friends, the final act of this story. This is the part nobody tells you, the part that flips everything on its head. Because silence was never about waiting. It was never about sitting by the phone, staring at the clock, counting the days until they come crawling back. That's not silence. That's desperation dressed up as patience. True silence is something different. It's about power. It's about shifting the balance. They left thinking you'd crumble, that you'd beg, that you'd chase after them to prove your worth. But you didn't. You stood still. You vanished. You left them with nothing but the echo of their own choices, and that silence forced them into a corner they could never escape. For months they chased shadows. They thought they could outrun the silence, fill it with noise, drown it out with new faces. But silence doesn't die that easily. It follows them like a ghost. It lingers in the quiet of the night, in the pauses of conversation, in the moments when the world grows still. And eventually they realize the truth they tried so hard to deny. You didn't need them. They needed you. And that realization cuts deeper than any rejection you could have given them with words. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's what happens here. They thought leaving you was fate. They thought replacing you was freedom. But silence made the unconscious rise up. It made them face the truth they didn't want to admit, that they lost someone rare, someone irreplaceable. And now, every step they take away from you only circles them back to where it all began. And yes, they will return, not because you begged, not because you reminded them of your worth, but because silence whispered it louder than your words ever could. Silence is not absence. Silence is presence amplified. It made you larger in their mind than you ever were in person. It made every memory sharper, every laugh louder, every touch heavier. Silence turned you into the standard they measure everyone else against, and nobody can match it. That's why they come back. That's why they knock on the door they once slammed shut. But here's the part you must never forget. It's on your terms. You are not the same person who begged for their attention, who accepted crumbs, who tolerated half-love. You walked away, you grew, you transformed. Silence gave you space to become stronger. And when they return, you hold the cards. You decide whether they get another chance or whether silence continues to be their teacher. Because the power is yours now, not theirs. Think about that for a moment. They left thinking you were powerless without them, and yet silence proved the opposite. They were powerless without you, and the day they realize it, the day they reach out, will be the day you know. Silence was never weakness. It was your greatest weapon. So, my friends, let me leave you with this truth. They always come back, but it's not because you waited, it's because you mastered yourself. It's because you chose silence over noise, growth over begging, strength over fear. They will return, and when they do, you will no longer be the one chasing. You will be the one choosing. That is the power of silence. That is the victory. Write it in the comments right now. Silence wins always. Say it like you mean it, because this is not just about them. It's about you stepping into control. And if you're ready to hold that control, press the like button, subscribe, and stay with me. This is your power. This is your freedom. This is your story. Say it with me one last time, my friends. Silence wins always.